Hi, this is Dr. Nigel Brer with another episode of Roots and Revelations and Chronic Disease Conversations. So, today I wanted to talk about this very interesting diagnosis that I've just started hearing about the last couple of years. It's called idiopathic vomiting syndrome. So, idiopathic means we have no idea what causes it, kind of based on the word idiot. So, idiopathic vomiting syndrome, the case comes about where people vomit repeatedly, generally daily, with no medically known cause. So I want to tell you a story about a young fella. I met him approximately 2 years ago. He's 12 years old when I first met. I was treating his parents for various conditions, and they brought this up that said, "Hey, my son has been going through multiple tests, upper GI tests, lower GI tests, blood tests, neurological tests, all of the above." He had been vomiting repeatedly for the last several years. He was starting to become malnourished and he was unable to digest protein properly. And so, what was happening is he was vomiting repeatedly through the day, chronically nauseous, but his parents were obviously stumped, but they were also very worried. And the doctor said, "Hey, we don't really know what to do for you or how to help you. Let's just monitor him once a month with some blood labs. And if it gets too bad, we'll have to admit him periodically and have a nice day." So they told me the story of their son. And I asked them a couple questions and I said, "Does this make any sense to you whatsoever?" And of course, they said no. But the question remains is why would the body reflexively want to remove the contents of the GI tract? So think of it this way, is what causes us to vomit is we're going to vomit when our body unconsciously wants to get rid of something. Maybe we have a bacteria or a virus that's creating toxins that's irritating the lining, or diarrhea, for example, is we're trying to get rid of certain things, or we have a bacterial infection, or some toxicity. Maybe we've had poisoning of some sort. So I asked them, I said, well, clearly the body's trying to get rid of something. We just don't exactly know what that is. So I encouraged them to do what's called a food journal, where they write down everything that he eats and he drinks. And when we reviewed the journal, it didn't look anything that, you know, dramatically off kilter. But I did ask them, I said, "Hey, does he have any sensitivities to foods?" And of course, they didn't know. So I said, "Well, let's run a food sensitivity test." And so what that is this isn't an allergy test. So an allergy test is you're testing to see if you have what's called an IgE antibody reaction. That would be like a bee sting or seasonal allergies, or certain foods like peanuts for some people will create that reaction. So, long story short, we did a food sensitivity test, which was a blood test, very simple, easy to do, which tested over 250 different foods. And what we found is he was extremely sensitive by the means of what's called the IgG antibody. He was extremely sensitive to beef. And that was curious because generally proteins aren't all of that, or at least animal proteins aren't super high in allergens. Usually it's grains or it's dairy or a few things like that. But in this case, he was extremely sensitive to beef. And lo and behold, beef was a daily issue consumed. And so what we did is we removed beef, and I believe he was also sensitive to dairy, and removed beef and dairy from his diet. And over 2 years of vomiting disappeared within a matter of a few days. The question that remains is why would somebody be sensitive to that type of protein? It's interesting. When I took further history, we found out that he had been bitten by what's called a Lone Star tick. So certain ticks, when they bite you, of course, you're familiar with Lyme's disease and those tick bites, but there's certain tick bites that can cause your body to react to certain proteins, most notably beef. So the Lone Star tick, in his case, was most likely the cause of his chronic beef allergy. So the question that I always ask people to understand is whenever we have any diagnosis, we have to really embrace a couple things. The first thing that we have to understand is the body's design is to heal. No matter what the condition is, something is preventing its natural healing. So there's three components that we need to discuss. There's physical stressors that can cause or prevent the body from healing. There's nutritional chemical stressors, hormonal stressors, and then mental and emotional stressors. So whenever we're working with a patient of any sort, we always have to ask those three questions. Is what are the three stressors and how is the body managing it? And are there various tests that may need to be done to help figure out where those stressors are coming from? So until next time, this is Dr. Brer. Have a great day, and I hope you learned a little bit about the idiopathic vomiting syndrome. And if you know anyone who has these type of diagnoses, which are kind of like a throwaway of saying, we have no idea what's causing it, ask yourself some questions. Is there physical stressors? Is there nutritional, chemical, hormonal stressors like there was with the young fella I was talking about? Or is there mental, emotional stressors? And the general is there's usually all of the above, and managing those gives the body the best opportunity to heal. Till next time, have a good day.